as much as people knock on like Traeger or Camp Chef, or they like, their own little competition, like both of those are doing amazing things for Utah barbecue. And so I think the worst thing that we can do is like knock any company that's doing their best to put Utah on the map. So like just throw your support behind anybody that you love that's doing Utah stuff, and yeah, let's get the word out there.
Welcome to the Pitmasters Podcast. I'm Rusty Monson.
I'm Anthony Lujan.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about charcoal, and we have Susie Bulloch and Todd Bulloch from Hey Grill Hey talking about all their stuff, so stay tuned.
What's up, Rusty?
I'm just chilling, man. What are you doing?
No, same thing, chilling.
Recording a podcast?
Recording a podcast, episode 1.
All right, guys, this is our episode 1. So today, let's just cut right to the chase. Talk a little bit about ourselves right now. I'm Rusty Monson. I am the head cook of Salt City Barbecue competition team. We're a new team, kind of a rookie team starting out this year. We haven't done too bad for ourselves. Couple second places, third place, and then 7th. And then recently went over, which we'll talk about, 20th place. So I'll let Anthony talk a little bit about what he does.
Well, I'm Anthony Lujan. I'm the team cook for Smoke Ain't No Joke Barbecue here in Salt Lake City. 2-time grand champion, 1-time reserve grand champion. I've just got into barbecue about 4 years ago and haven't stopped and don't plan on stopping. So
one day I was talking to Anthony and he just kicked me a text, said, "Hey, you want to start a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about doing for a long time." So gathered some equipment and we just wanted to start a podcast to learn them as much as we can, but most importantly to teach you guys how to be better pitmasters yourself, backyard, competition, whatever. So we'll just jump right into it right now. So Anthony cooked with Salt City Barbecue this past week at Wendover.
I sure did.
And it was, I had judged that competition a couple of times, and when I was looking to become a competition team, that was the one thing I was looking forward to. I wanted to come into Wendover and just crush that thing.
I think that's everybody's plan.
Yeah, I mean the money.
Yeah, the money
there is intense.
Exactly.
Like 15th place is $250 for whatever meat.
Right.
So I mean, you take 15th place in all positions, all meats, you're getting $1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So I looked at our entire year as a practice for that. That's what I was looking to do. So I was there, and so instead of like doing what we do and have done for the past 4 times, we did the opposite. We didn't do anything we usually do. We kept the ribs normal. We brought Anthony in to do pork.
Sure did.
We did a little bit different on our chicken. And then last minute, I changed up the recipe on our brisket and dipped it in sauce instead of just painted it on. So, I mean,
and your other factor, too, is that charcoal. You decided to go a little bit different route.
We're talking about charcoal today, and I'm
Exactly.
normally a Kingsford briquette guy.
Yes.
But I switched up to Rockwood this time and did lump charcoal. So a little bit different with everything. So talk about your cook.
Yeah, so I just kind of jumped on board, jumped in the car. Rusty's like, "Come with me." I was like, "All right, it's on." Jumped out there. I felt like I brought a little bit of a different factor to the team that you guys aren't used to. I don't know if that's true or not, but
well, yeah, I mean, a little bit more experience in the competition more than what we have. You do boxing a little bit better than we do.
Actually, the boxing is taking many years of watching the barbecue wife and the cousin do it. They're actually the masters. I just was winging it, no notes, kind of just, I think this is how they do it. So that's where we came from on that. But I had an excellent time hanging out with your guys' team. You guys are awesome. There's nothing but jokes and comedy the entire time. We did have a few incidences of water sprayage inside the tent due to jokes. There's actually one seat that if you sat in it was probably going to happen. I sat next to the seat and it almost happened. So there was like some voodoo about that seat. It was kind of odd.
2 people spit water out their mouth. Anthony almost did.
Yes, it was close.
I did not.
Well, you didn't even sit in the seat. I think you were scared.
Well, you guys aren't funny, so I'm not laughing. And 2, I don't drink water very often. So
yeah, yep. Anyway, so yeah, I threw down some of the best pork I have in a while actually, and we hit 18th out of the 37 teams. I did make some mistakes in my cook, which one little mistake at that level is huge, and it came back and kind of bit us. I almost put us on the bubble. I was trying to anchor the team, but it just didn't happen.
Ribs took 15th place, and that was it, man. Got our 250 and put our tail between our legs and peaced out.
You sure did. So, anyways, like we said earlier, Rusty decided to go with a different brand of what he was used to cooking on. Let's get into detail on the charcoal scenario.
Cool. So I read an Amazing Ribs article about charcoal science a long time ago, and they're talking about how briquettes are the same. And when it comes to lump charcoal or briquettes, they're the same thing. It's fire. It's heat. It's not flavor. So I kind of bought into that, and I went with the whole. I was a Kingsford guy, like I said. I'd use Kingsford home in competition, all of it. So then, flash forward to 2 weeks ago, we're in Kanab doing a competition, and Matt Hansen from Crooked Pigs was cooking Rockwood. Sorry. I rolled up and I smelt it, and I was like, "This smells delicious." Like, just the smell was just. Oh, this is great. This smells amazing.
So yeah, walking through, probably making it to Matt, you're picking up different smells, but you as soon as you hit his area, it's just different.
Yeah, it was burning in a chimney.
Okay.
And it was like, oh wow, this smell. So it started clicking in my head, like turning in my head. If it smells this good, and Kingsford smells good, but if it smells this clean, it's got to taste clean. Right. It's got to be a cleaner taste. It's got to be a cleaner, And Matt, we'll have him on the show down the road, talking probably about the specific thing, but he mixes his things in. Oh, we lost something off the wall. So he mixes his charcoal. So he'll do a B&B, he'll do a Rockford, he'll do all sorts of stuff.
Right.
And it's this whole thing. But he was just doing Rockwood at this point. So I came back. I'm like, dude, there's got to be something to this. So I'm going to start cooking on Rockwood and see how it goes. So what I came up with is I kind of came back to the Amazing Ribs article where he talks about it's fuel and it's heat. It's just heat. That's all it is. Then you got to look on how they're made. So the argument with briquettes,
right,
is what? They're fillers.
They're a whole bunch of fillers and just not consistent. Their mixture ratio is just different from what the streets are saying.
So let's talk about that for a sec. Wood char is for heat. This is what's in your normal blue bag Kingsford. Is mineral char, which is for heat as well. You got mineral carbon, which is for heat. You got limestone, and the only reason that's in there is to make that ash color.
Right.
So then you got starch, and that's the binding. And we eat starch in everything,
right,
and that's a natural thing. Borax, borax is a mineral you find in water.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Sodium nitrate, that's in there to get your ignition going and speed it up a little bit. And sodium nitrate you find in hot dogs and all sorts of stuff. And then sawdust is just sawdust from, whatever, hardwood.
Yes.
So looking at that, it doesn't seem like there's too much in there that's going to make any flavor difference as far as that goes. Now, you can go up to professional series, which used to be called the competition style.
Right.
This is Kingsford.
That's with the red label, right?
It used to be. Now it's blue.
Oh, it's blue now.
They just kind of dumb it down to just wood char, which is just your heat source. They use a binder starch, and they use borax still.
Right.
Again, that's just found in water. I've used both. So the real difference is that the professional really heats up. It gets going quick. I mean, you got 15 minutes. Whereas if I'm doing charcoal, Kingsford briquettes, it's taking me about 30, 45 minutes to get up sometimes. So
they're heating up a lot faster than your normal blue bag.
Yeah, a lot faster.
Right.
So they burn hotter too. Now, which is weird because this is where the thing I can't understand is because all that stuff is happening. It smells a little bit different, and you just take out 4 ingredients. So what are those 4 ingredients? I think it's what everyone worries about.
Right.
So then you have lump charcoal. The argument with lump charcoal is that a couple of things happen. They don't fully carbonize, which happened to me. I found a little piece of brown in mine, so it's not fully carbonized. People have found, I was on, so if you're interested in lump charcoal, the nakedwiz.com is the way to go. You can go, he reviews all sorts of things. He's got a really good resource there. And if you look at his site, he digs into the bags, he pours them out and goes through them. And he finds all sorts of stuff. Tootsie Roll wrappers.
Nails.
Someone found a half plastic PVC pipe, whatever.
Right.
And so you find all this stuff in there. And if you don't catch that, I'd rather have borax than I would a
Tootsie Roll
wrapper.
Exactly.
So then there's that. Your Kingsford briquettes are made to regulate air through. So they light, they're more consistent. Their temperatures are a little bit more consistent. Whereas your lump charcoal comes and can like stack on one each other and compress.
Right.
So you'll be burning great, and all of a sudden, boom, you'll just come into this.
Just like a campfire. When the logs fall on top of each other, you lose that heat source.
Precisely. So there's arguments on both sides. So in my point at this moment, where I've discovered now, it's kind of spades to me.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple so then the important part is like, how does it actually get made? How does lump charcoal get made? How does briquettes get made? It's a very similar process.
It just doesn't show up in a bag?
No.
Oh.
It's not magic.
Oh man.
So a couple of things it does is, so the wood will come from a lot of different places. Some people say that it comes from like logging companies and stuff like that. Others will get theirs from construction companies, from housing, from all sorts of random places that they just kind of come from, and they'll donate them, and then they'll cut them down and they'll burn them. But let's just be nice and pretend they're all coming from legitimate logging companies. So they get the out. So when they cut down a log, they'll cut off the edges, and then they'll have a perfect square, whatever shape. Those extras will go to the lump charcoal company.
Right.
So what they'll do is they'll take them and cut them down into bits. They'll put them into a big colander. That's not the word, I guess.
From what I've seen, it's just like a big room, right? It's pretty much just
it's like a burner.
Big
with
burner.
No air in it, and they'll cook it without air. What that does is it takes all the moisture out of it. It takes all the water out, the methane, the hydrogen, the tar, takes it all out.
Right.
Interesting side note is all that is it's like obviously moisture, and it comes and drips down.
Right.
And they'll sell that to people who make
liquid
smoked
smoke
meats.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Like a liquid smoke.
Kind of. But for salamis and stuff like that,
okay.
they'll throw that into the actual salami. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So they'll take all that out. Then so that dries it down. Now you have carbonized wood. So it comes out real hot. And so they'll heat it. They'll take that and they'll cool it down real quick. And then now you have your lump charcoal. Yeah. Now you're down to a 5% moisture rate, and then they bag it up and sell it. So they'll take chunks out, and that's what they use. Right. And so the ash will come down, and they'll sell that to companies that make briquettes, or they'll make briquettes out of it themselves. Right. So Kingsford uses sawdust. So that's the same process for almost all briquette companies that come from a lump charcoal company too. So the difference is Kingsford takes sawdust, does the same thing. Takes the sawdust, puts in that chamber, moistures it all out. It goes through the drying process. It goes through the cool down process. Then it goes into a slurry. That's where your starch, borax, limestone come in. Then it comes out. They form it, and it's still really soft, so they bake it again. Okay. Then it goes into the bag, not automatically. Just doesn't appear there. Yeah. And so then you have your charcoal. Right. So the same process happens for both things. Just the difference is they'll add a binder for a couple of reasons we've gone through. Now Kingsford does it a little differently than B&B. B&B says it's 100% charcoal. Different companies will do different things, and they're all trying to match to get the briquette to be the same as lump. That's kind of the idea these days. But so for me, it's all the same. You know, like it all comes out the same. So
it starts and just ends up in a different bag.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now one doesn't have binders, but the other has elements you got to watch out for.
Exactly.
So it's like, which one would you want? And for me, it just comes down to low and slow. I'm going to use charcoal briquettes. Right. And if I'm doing hot and fast, I'm using lump charcoal. Right. I like that it burns quick. Like yesterday, I was firing up for some ribs, use some rockwood again. I got my pit to 315 minutes. If I did charcoal, that'd take 30, 45 minutes. That's important to me. I like that. It burns a little bit more, less consistent, but at the same time, it doesn't go too hot, which is weird in my barrel. Right. Because lump, it technically burns hotter than briquettes, but I'm actually able to control it a little bit better with briquettes. but briquettes can get ahead of me, get away from me quicker, I feel.
Have you seen in your experience with the lump coal, like in your barrel, like with the poppiness, it pops and cracks? Have you seen any material land on your meats and create a burn spot, or anything like that? Have you experienced anything along those lines?
I've experienced that pop for sure. That's why I don't use it in my PK for steaks.
Right.
I won't. I use straight briquettes for steaks always, no matter what.
Yep.
And that for that reason, because it's just pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, it's like a real campfire, just popping and cracking.
Yep. So I experience that a lot with Rockford. I don't experience that with a lot. Fogo, they use. I hear that happens a lot with them.
Right.
Depends on the company. So that's a good example. Is cowboy charcoal. Now what I'm about to say is years old, but cowboy charcoal came from Mexico, and it was made from construction sites.
Right.
So tear down houses. They would do whatever. They're just random wood.
Yeah.
So it's treated wood, most likely.
Right.
Well, who knows? But it's treated wood. So you're using treated wood in your fire, And now I've heard since then that is not the case. But I'm just kind of proving a point. With lump charcoal, you don't really know what you're getting.
Right.
At least with Kingsford, you know exactly what you're getting in your bag. So,
every single time.
Every time.
Now,
if you're fine with borax, which you should be because you clean your clothes with it.
Yeah. Wash your hands.
Comes in water.
Yeah.
If you're kind of cool with starch because you eat potatoes.
Yeah.
If you're cool with limestone, which is tasteless, it's all, it doesn't. So I have side-by-sided my lump charcoal and my Kingsford, whatever. People say they have off flavors. I cannot tell the difference. And I would love to have examples of someone who can tell me what charcoal they used. If I could taste it. So if I cooked you 2 ribs, one in a lump charcoal, one in a briquette, how do you know? How would you be able to tell the difference without looking?
I would not be able to tell the difference unless, obviously, you put a different hardwood on there. Then I can pick up a flavor profile. But straight up charcoal, I would never be able to identify the flavor difference.
Right. That's what I think that's really comes down to. People swear up and down they can taste it. I don't know, man. For me, it's just that thinking back on the 80s and the 90s when everyone put lighter fluid on there. Right. I think that's just in their head.
Right.
Like that smell.
That smell never goes away. Like they say that you can taste the smell.
Right.
That's 2 different senses.
It's like MSG. People are like, well, it gives me headaches. That's proven time and time again that it does not.
Right. And
so I think it's just kind of this residual hangover from the days when people just doused it with lighter fluid.
Yeah.
And
so when people talk about, oh, I love this flavor of charcoal, where's that flavor really coming from?
It's coming from your meat dripping onto the charcoal.
Okay.
So what happens is your fat renders off and drips into the charcoal, and it produces a smoke that comes up and re-seasons your meat.
Right.
That's mostly where it comes from. So the flavor is coming from your meat, not from your charcoal. If you add wood, obviously everyone does.
Yes.
That's the flavor. I've heard that certain lump charcoals cause smokiest flavor like that. But at the same time, if I went to go, if I went to go cook a pork butt in my oven, the taste would be much different if I was to put it out on the charcoal. So I mean, there's something to say about that.
Yes.
But there's a charcoal taste.
Yes.
I'm not saying there's not, but can you taste the difference between this charcoal and that lump charcoal? I don't think there's a difference in that taste. It all comes from the meat drippings. It all comes from the smoke coming up from those. But cool side note, charcoal's 30,000 years old.
Wow.
It was used to draw in ancient caves. That was the first thing they used for art, was charcoal.
They still use it for art.
Yeah, they do. We're still using it today.
Yes.
Charcoal was used mostly for blacksmiths, and they would heat up their metal with that, and that's how they would work. So it was a big process to big business was charcoal, because you'd have a collier that would build. How it works, if you and I were to go out and make one, we'd build like a wood shaft out of wood, would stack up like a Jenga.
Yeah.
But with the middle hollow. Then we'd put a bunch of wood down that.
Right.
All this wood that we fit in there. And then we'd literally just bury the whole thing in this huge mound. Like a big mound. We'd light it we'd stick a stick down it, and then we'd light it. And it would sit there and we'd bury it all up. And it sits there for weeks and just sits there and smolders and just smolders and smolders and smolders. Then we unbury it, and then we have our charcoal.
Right.
That's how it works. And these colliers would have mounds everywhere. Just everywhere. It looks like a big bunch of volehills,
Right. Like if you live in Utah, there's some examples heading out to what's that town? just west of Nephi. It's not clicking right now.
Mona?
No, Delta,
Delta,
Utah. Yeah, you head out there, and there's a couple on the side of the roads for some examples.
Yeah, and that was a big deal. Colliers were a big business. They would make a lot of money, and they would have horse-drawn carriages coming up constantly, just picking up the charcoal, coming back.
Right.
And all these kilns as far as you can see. So it was big business, and nowadays people still make it on their own. I don't know why.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go buy. I'm good.
It's so much easier to go to a local barbecue shop and just pick out whatever brand you choose.
Because you can make it in a barrel. It's the same thing. You just put it in there, you cover the top, and you seal it, and you can make it out of a barrel. And people do that, but man, it's a lot of work. Unless you have a lot of wood hanging around.
Or you have a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know. The difference isn't, I don't think there's a big difference. I don't think that you're tasting any different between briquettes and lump. I just don't think you're doing that. I kind of agree with the amazing ribs side of it. Kind of comes down to just what you want to burn, how you want to burn it. I think that's really the key. Do I want to burn something, get up to temp quick? Am I looking to go low and slow and it doesn't matter? Am I looking for more of a, because if I'm hot and fast, I can burn 5-6 hours pretty regularly, but after that, then it's kind of gets a little janky. You know?
When I was cooking with you a couple weeks back, you went with the lump charcoal, and you were actually, one of your comments when we finished the cook, you were really surprised on how much lump was still left. Yeah,
there was a lot left.
Yeah,
I thought we'd burn through it because I've done caterings where I'm trying to get my lump to last 9 hours and it didn't work.
Right.
Then I switched from that to briquettes, and they lasted longer, and I was able to control my temperatures a little bit better on the long end. So I'm talking about 7-8 hours in.
Right.
It got a little bit more consistent than lump.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, there's still left in my pit from yesterday.
Right.
It's just we cooked that for only 3 hours, and it doesn't look like it did anything. So it does last a long time.
Right.
But if I'm hot and fast, I want that fast. I
right.
want my temp up quick. If I want the long haul, I want to be able to control my pit for 9-10 hours if I can.
Right.
And I'm going to use briquettes every time. So it's really just kind of, for me, comes down to
the cook.
The cook after 5 hours.
Right.
Personally. So that's my speech.
That was a good speech.
On lump charcoal.
Very good speech.
Yeah. So we're going to bring in an interview for you guys right now. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. We're going to bring in an interview for you guys. We talked to Hey Grill Hey, Todd and Susie Bulloch, who are Utah pitmasters. If you don't know who they are, then you've been living in a rock for a really long time. So
very long time.
That is
not really. What about 4 years? She said she's been in the game, right?
Right.
So,
but she's been all over Food Network recently in the barbecue brawl. She's doing one this week. So when you hear this, will probably be the previous week where she's judging. So you'll see her a lot more on TV, but her heygrillhey.com, a lot of recipes, great rubs.
Yeah, if you ever,
apple jalapeno sauce is really good.
Yeah, if you're ever just in a jam and you want to try something new, just hit her website, man. She has everything that you can think of, from sides to main dishes, and
she does a
drinks,
hot dog burnt ends.
Yeah, I think she's made some drinks as well.
Yeah, she does a hot dog burnt end. I'm trying.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Nice.
Because we're cooking pork breast today.
Sweet.
So we'll probably try that tomorrow, but there's a lot of fun stuff on there, a lot of really good food. She knows what she's talking about, guys. She did a lot of recipe development for a very large pellet company, and but we'll let her kind of explain all that fun stuff for you guys, and enjoy the interview. All right, everybody, we got Todd and Susie Bulloch here from Hey Grill Hey.
Hey.
Hey, guys.
So, you're a world record holder, a social media mogul. You do recipe development. You're a barbecue pit master, author, wife, husband, father, wife. So what brought you to this point?
Oh my gosh, so much tears and barbecue sauce. That probably more accurately describes the last few years, huh, Todd?
Yeah, tears caused by me.
So I'll give you guys just a little bit of the backstory, and then Todd can kind of fill in the gaps because I'm forgetful. But I started recipe development for a smoking grill manufacturing company here in Salt Lake City, and we had 3 young kids. It was the perfect job. I could work from home, develop these recipes, and I kind of fell in love with barbecue through this process. Before this point, I mean, we had a grill. We'd gotten it for free off of Craigslist. And we'd even like tried to smoke a couple things on that gas grill with like the foil pouch, and we were into food for sure. We loved cooking things at home. We loved going out to eat. Like food was a very big part of our lives. And so when I got this job developing recipes, it was this perfect transition into I still get to cook all the time. I get to feed my family all the time. And then there was this added element of like barbecue's delicious and the barbecue community is amazing. So I just fell in love with barbecue. And I did that for a couple of years. I mean, I was developing 5 recipes a week. So I wrote hundreds of recipes during this time I was with this company, and I got pretty good at it. I knew how to write recipes that people could cook at home. I knew how to write recipes that people got excited about. And so when time came, I parted ways with this company that I had been working for. I couldn't imagine my life without barbecue. I couldn't imagine like not cooking all the time, and developing recipes had become my creative outlet. It became this thing that I could do that I really enjoyed. And I could experience that like magical moment of serving a freaking awesome brisket at, you know, a watch party with our friends. We were watching the soccer game, and I made that thing. So I wanted to share that experience with other people and give them the opportunity to, you know, have that awesome food moment at home. And barbecue is the way. So that's how Hey Grill Hey started 4.5 years ago now, right?
Yep.
And I just started putting out recipes and hoping that somebody would like them or see them on the internet or catch one of the posts on Facebook. And I would tell everybody that I could, like, oh, you got a smoker? I write smoker recipes. I'm like telling people in the grocery line waiting to check out, like, why do you have 14 steaks? Oh, well, I'm writing about different steaks today.
And bags of pellets. When people had bags of pellets, we're like, hey.
Oh, you smoke things? We also smoke things. So that's kind of how it got started. And then everything since then has been the most insane ride of our lives. I mean, it definitely started slow. We took losses the first 2 years. Like we were spending more on food developing recipes than we were making from the blog for sure. And I would say Todd was a little bit skeptical that I could ever actually turn this into something more than just a hobby. He knew that I could cook, and he always was super supportive and helpful and willing to try anything that I made and listen to me talk his ear off about barbecue and blogging and social media and everything in between. But it wasn't until, a few years into it that he realized, oh, this has turned into something more.
Definitely. So as you develop these recipes, where does the baseline start? Like, hey, tonight I'm cooking a steak, but when you decide to just go off that way, you're like, oh, I'm going to use coffee. Can you tell us the process of developing a recipe?
Sure. My original recipe started by, okay, what do I normally cook for my family for dinner? How can I cook that on the grill? Like, how can I make modifications to our normal family mealtime to be able to cook them outside? And so we did a lot of fun things in the beginning. We did like a smoked lasagna, enchiladas, like all sorts of stuff. But now the recipes kind of come from a place of what do people need to know? Like, what are they searching for? So we do a lot of research on Google and keyword research, like, oh, okay, a lot of people are searching for a smoked chicken recipe. Like, what can I do for smoked chicken that will really help people make the best smoked chicken? So we'll try multiple variations. Do we do half chickens? Do we do spatchcock chickens? Is it beer can chicken? And then kind of develop recipes off of what turns out the best. And here are variations that you can do at home, kind of a deal.
Do you have any recipe that was just the worst thing ever? You're just like, oh, let's try this.
Like,
and
you're excited and then it just totally fails and flops.
I would say, so we test our recipes like multiple times before they ever hit the website. And one of the worst things I ever made turned out to be one of our most viral recipes after I like tweaked it. But I had this idea, I wanted to make jerky so bad. And we'd made jerky a few times, but it always just tasted the same. Like, I felt like jerky was jerky, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a jerky that like nobody's ever heard of. So I was getting a little bit creative with the ingredients that I used, and I decided to make a Dr. Pepper jalapeno beef jerky. And the first time I was making it out of nothing. There wasn't a recipe that I could follow for this. It was like, we're going to put all of this stuff together. I think these flavors are going to taste good. Let's see what happens. And it tasted like literally nothing. Like it tasted like dried, watery beef shoe leather. It was not good. Like the salt content wasn't there. The sweetness wasn't there. There was no heat from the jalapenos. Like it tasted like I soaked beef in water for a couple of days and then checked it on the smoker. But I really thought that there was potential in this recipe. For some reason, I should have just scrapped it on the first go around. But after like 3 or 4 tries, I had really dialed it in, and it was
Nice.
so good. Like Todd was freaking out about it. I couldn't wait to share it, so I just shared a quick photo of it on Facebook, like, hey, we just made this, and it was so good. And the photo took off. So then I was like, oh, we should probably make this into like a video so people can see how to make this jerky at home. And then that went insane. That was like our first real viral piece of content that we ever created. But
Right.
I don't think anybody knows the first iteration of that was just absolute trash. Like I think we each had 2 bites, and then the entire batch went in the garbage. It wasn't even salvageable.
So Dr. Pepper beef jerky was almost backburned. I always joke with you guys on social media, like I knew you guys before Dr. Pepper beef jerky, right?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. So that's kind of like my little running joke. Like I knew her before that video.
I knew her before that video took off.
Yeah,
And, oh my gosh, if only you could have tried it. I don't know why I decided that I was going to keep working on that recipe, because it really was so. We threw away an entire batch of jerky because it was so bad.
Well, that's like the breakdown of traditional barbecue. You know, like I cooked a brisket. My first competition brisket actually turned out to be beef jerky. No lie. I cut it and I was like, I didn't even see a drop of moisture come out, but. Failures turn into great things.
That's why I always say you can't eat bad barbecue. At least it's jerky,
right?
Yeah, even the worst barbecue is pretty decent jerky.
Yes.
So what's your favorite recipe? Let's say you're like, okay, we're going to cook tonight and you want to impress someone. What's the go-to recipe you guys use for that?
I mean, my favorite thing to cook right now, we're always doing tri-tips because they feed a crowd. It's a great way to get like awesome beef flavor, and there's so many ways you can spin it. You can do low and slow smoked brisket style tri-tip. You can do hot and fast over the grill. You can do it Santa Maria style with charcoal. So that one's one that I really like to cook because I can kind of change how I make it based on who's coming and, you know, whatever I want to make that day. What's your favorite one to eat, Todd?
I'll say it every time. Your apple jalapeno ribs, man. They're incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then so Todd, how often do you get behind the grill? Like, are you developing recipes? Are you trying to like take your own spin off this and maybe break off on your own and try to battle Susie on an episode one night, or what's going on?
No way. I don't have those creative juices. I mean, I can cook ribs, pork brisket, just, you know, not competition, backyard style like anyone else, and it's delicious. But I just do a sweet rub and slow smoke it. Like there's no injections or brining or whatever.
Every time I go out of town, I get pictures of him on the smokers. I think
so he is trying.
I think I kind of capitalize, or not capitalize, what's the word I'm looking for? Commandeer all of the smokers when I'm home. I mean, because we're cooking so frequently here at home, and I do most like our family meal prep. I do all the recipe development for the website, all the videos and all of that is my recipes. So as soon as I'm out of town, he's like, yes.
Well, we're usually doing most of these recipes on pellet grills just because they're so convenient to hurry and cook something on. So when she's gone, or if it's a weekend, I'm like firing up like the offset or a pit barrel or something like that. I want to like dig in and like really learn how to use coals and fire to cook something, not just use the pellet grill. So
yeah, it's a good balance.
On that video you guys did with all your smokers, it seems the pit barrel's yours, right, Todd?
He claims it.
I guess, yeah. No, it's awesome. I think I took that thing to a scout camp and cooked 6 racks of ribs for all the kids, and they just like devoured. And one kid like choked on it. He loved it so much. He inhaled it. Anyway, it was. I love it. The pit barrel's awesome, but I love them all equally. They're all...
Nice. So actually, episode 1 is our charcoal episode. Todd, what are you putting in there in your pit barrel or your offset? What's your go-to charcoal?
Man, I've tried everything from different brands of lump to just plain old Kingsford briquettes, like, and honestly, like, I can if you cooked on 6 different brands and types of charcoal and lined up the ribs, I couldn't tell you which was which. I'm not that great at picking them out. So just
Right.
kind of like whatever we have, I'll use. It seems like we had some Kingsford ones that they lasted the longest. Like that gave me the longest.
They were the competition style Kingsford briquettes.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the hardwood
Yes.
in those, we really liked those ones.
Nice,
Just for
nice.
flavor, and then they did last a long time.
But these B&B ones we just tried, like they're lasting longer. I feel like those are great.
So I've cooked with B&B lump a lot in the past, especially traveling there. It's hard to get B&B where we live. So I'll cook with B&B a lot if I'm cooking in Texas, or I mean even in Colorado.
Okay.
I've cooked on B&B, but we just got some, and we've been loving it in our Weber kettle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think the biggest mistake backyard cooks are making? So if there's someone just starting out and they, maybe they get a recipe in their head and they watch one video and they just think that's the way. What bad habits are they developing that you see often when you're talking to people?
I've got one.
Okay.
I'll let Susie think for a minute. I had this. So we got it's not a big green egg, but it's a big porcelain Kamado type cooker. And when we first got it, I'm like, I'm gonna learn how to do this. And I filled it up like 3/4 with charcoal and wood chunks and just like lit the top. I'm like, oh, it'll just burn down. And then it didn't work. And the pork I did on it tasted like literally like campfire. Like it was not good at all. So like, don't do that. That's not a great method.
I think he's saying preheat your coals. If you're using charcoal,
Yes.
make sure to actually burn in your coals so you're not getting that fresh burn on a new piece of charcoal
Yeah.
while you're trying to cook.
Yeah.
That one's hard for me because I made so many mistakes, and each one of them just kind of helped me get better the next time. So I would say being afraid of making mistakes is probably the biggest mistake. I think people, instead of going in too confident, what I've experienced is a lot of people feeling really intimidated, especially if they've cooked on gas for a long time, which is how most of us grew up. Like gas became the thing in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Like those were the grills that we had access to, and those were the grills that we cooked on. In my mind, like backyard burgers and hot dogs were hamburgers. So when I did need to make the jump to wood-fired cooking, charcoal cooking, I was super intimidated. And so I think the biggest thing is just don't be afraid of making mistakes. Be willing to jump in and try something new. One of my favorite pitmasters said the first smoker, he just saw something about barbecue on TV, watched Barbecue Pitmasters, and he's like, hey, I want to do that. So he went out and bought a cheap, like, tiny little Weber Smoky Joe, and lit it up with pine wood because he didn't know any better.
No.
And how terrible, right?
Oh, no.
But
right.
so he didn't use pine wood next time. He just went into it with a lot of enthusiasm and a rack of ribs. And I think, why not? Like, why not start that way? Read recipes, get information. That's fantastic. Use a thermometer. Those are all such great tips. But at the end of the day, just start. And if you are going to start with something affordable that you're not going to be super sad if you mess it up. Jump in with burgers, jump in with chicken breasts, jump in with drumsticks.
Or pork butt.
Yeah, and then kind of work your way up to more expensive and intimidating meat.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest mistake I see a lot of backyard guys doing too is they go and buy a brisket as soon as they buy their new grill.
Yeah.
And that does not work at all.
Our first brisket was not great.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into your recipes and I guess we already covered your recipes, but let's get into the development of your product line. Let's hear a little bit about that product line.
So, Todd, do you want to take this away or do you want me to jump into product?
Oh, dear. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, our cat just jumped on my soundboard. I was afraid something was going to happen. So, about a year ago, well, it's been a couple years, Susie's been talking about wanting to bottle her sauces and rubs, and I'm like doing the numbers, like let's say we make 5,000 worth of product and we make we'd make $500 on top of it. Like, is it really worth it to try to go for that, Right. So just because the margins are so slim, because spices are expensive and whatever. But anyway, so we just, as time went on, she just kind of talked me into being
we had
okay
more
with
and
it.
more people asking too.
Yeah.
because we have recipes on our website. I mean, most of the sauces that we have and most of the seasonings that we sell, you can find a home version on our website that you can, kind of recreate similar flavor profiles. But people were asking, hi, can you please just bottle this for me? Like, we've made it for years. We love it, but we'd love to just be able to buy it and have it on our shelves and not have to worry about, getting all of our own ingredients and making it ourselves. So it kind of came from, well, people are asking, might as well give them what they want.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
No, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I do not like making my own religious sauces. It's just too difficult. It's just not the same every time either. So if you can find somebody who's packaging and bottling, I can get more consistent in my personal cooks.
It's nice because I can just throw on that. You guys just have a sweet rub, and I want to say it's apple jalapeno. I put that on a pork butt once. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And
you guys use real salt, correct? From Redmond Real Salt.
Do yeah.
Nice. Using
and all of our seasoning, like the person that's manufacturing our seasoning is in Orem, and the person that's manufacturing our sauces is in West Jordan. And so, I mean,
and they're Susie's actual recipes. Yeah. We're not like white labeling.
We're not white labeling anything. These are all my recipes that we hand developed and tasted. We hand sourced the products that are going into our bottles. So that's really exciting to us. Our label maker is here in Utah. Our bottle provider is here in Utah. And so we think that's important, especially in this world of barbecue where everything is so regional, right? Like, Texas barbecue, Kansas City barbecue, Memphis barbecue. Like, let's do Utah a favor, because there are a lot of people killing it in the barbecue space here right now.
Right.
Let's on that.
So yeah, speaking of regional, there you're talking about that's something you actually brought up in the barbecue brawl. You said that you wanted to put like Utah barbecue on the map.
Yeah, that's like one of our weird little personal missions, actually.
I gotta say, I fanboyed a lot when you popped up on the screen and said Lehi, Utah. I'm like, oh yeah.
There's so much of that hometown pride, and what's amazing about that is Utah's an awesome community anyway. And I'm kind of mad that I'm in the public eye talking about Utah right now, because people are going to be like, oh, Utah, let's go there. But I don't, like, it's fine. Utah's fine. You don't have to come here, I guess. But there's so many people in Utah doing amazing things in the barbecue space. We have two of the biggest wood-fired pellet manufacturing companies here in Utah. Like, that's amazing. And every year we're seeing new barbecue restaurants pop up here in Utah with different, like, their own interpretations, their own style of barbecue. And it's amazing for us to watch and to feel like in some way we're a small part of this barbecue community and doing what we can to grow this idea of low and slow food, spending time outside with your family, sitting down and having an amazing meal, right? Like that's what barbecue is all about for us. It's that community element, and Utah does community better than anyone I know.
Nice.
Absolutely. So talk about Pit Brawl for a little bit. How was that going into that with the likes of Tuffy Stone? And
talk about intimidation.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Barbecue Brawl.
I walked out. So we didn't know who any of the competitors were. We had no idea who the judges were. I didn't even know that Bobby Flay and Michael Simon were going to be on the show until just before I left to film the show. It was very vague in terms of the concept, what we were going to be doing on the show. And so, I mean, I just showed up completely blind, and walking out into the lobby, they put us all in cars and drove us out to, where we were filming the show, and walking into the lobby and looking to see who was there. I didn't know who was judging or who was competing. And there's Chris Lilly, like Hall of Fame, Tuffy Stone, Mo Kate-san, and I mean, I knew one person there. I knew Joe from Slaps. I met him in Kansas City a couple of years ago at one of the world record events that I was at.
You met Chris too, right?
Yeah, I met Chris then too. So I knew Chris, I knew Joe. I knew of Leanne, but I didn't know Leanne. And I mean, Lene, Kevin Bledsoe, Phil the Grill.
Right.
I can't name any name, and it's like, oh yeah, that person's legit. And then you're like, Susie Bulloch, and they're like, who? So I knew who everybody was. Nobody knew who I was. It took the second day Kevin Bledsoe came up to me and he was like, you're the prime rib girl. Like, my kids and I cooked that prime rib for Christmas. I messaged my kids and I was like, this is who's here. And his kids messaged back and they were like, hey, Grill, hey. So his kids knew who I was, but nobody else knew who I was at all. And Michael Simon and Bobby Flay even told me at the end of the competition, they were like, you should know that we're just really surprised because we were looking at the lineup and it was stacked and we knew everybody except for you. And we had no idea how you could hang with this level of competitor on this show. So, I mean, good job.
Right. They know who you are now.
I guess so.
They know you can hang.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean, intimidation level 1,000 for sure.
Right.
And you're also doing I saw that you're judging something on Food Network.
Yeah, there's a new show called Barbecue Beatdown. It'll be on Sunday at 10 o'clock in Mountain Time. It's a pilot episode, so this is the first time it's ever kind of premiering this new show they've been working on for a while. And it's 3 really well-known pitmasters, Mo Cason, Carrie Bringle, and Danielle Bennett Diva Q. And there's a challenger that has to cook through each one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's a pretty grueling challenge.
It's not an elimination one. It's just like there's prizes at each.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So you just go heads up.
Head to head with some of the best in the barbecue world. And anyone who knows those 3, I mean, Mo, Carrie, and Danielle they've all proven that they can cook barbecue, and they all have made a name for themselves because of it. So it was a really fun show because I got to be in the judge's seat that time.
Yes.
I actually got to sit and eat all the food, and I will say it was this sweet little turn of justice to be able to judge Mo for once instead of having him critique my food every single time. But it was amazing, and each one of them were amazing, and each one of them have been in judges' seats. Each one of them have been in competitors' seats. So it was fun for me to be able to kind of sit in both roles in such a short period of time.
And your host judge with our friend Kent Black at a Black's Barbecue.
Yeah, in Lockhart, like the OG of Central Texas barbecue was Kent Black.
Oh, wow.
And he's a friend of mine. I've known him for a couple of years. So that was really fun to be able to sit and judge with him.
The world record, tell me about that. What did you get a world record in 2 times, right? Is that right?
The first one has been broken. I need to reclaim my title. So the first
I don't
one
want to be a part of that.
Oh my gosh. It was the longest grilling marathon. So I grilled on a New York City street corner for over 34 hours. No sleep. There was not like a break situation involved where we like paused the clock or anything.
So Todd, that's the one you don't want to be a part of.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do that one.
I like my sleep.
Yeah. So that one was with Ballpark Hot Dogs and Food Network. That was like 4 years ago.
Okay.
And then the second one was, like I said, with Chris Lilly in Kansas City, and it was a Smithfield event. It was for the largest grilling class. So that was
Dang, I couldn't do that.
No.
I mean, we do competition barbecue, and we're used to the 24 hours, but
yeah,
I want to kill everyone at that time.
It just never stopped.
I look at a bed of nails, I'm like, that looks comfy.
Right.
I could lay on that.
Yeah, and the downside, you don't even want to eat your own food after being up for 24 hours.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. But I mean, it was a once in a lifetime experience, and it kind of started the path that I'm on with Food Network now, actually. They were one of the sponsors for the event. We got to tour Food Network kitchens, and I got to meet the head chef at Food Network, and he's been responsible for kind of putting my name in the ring for a lot of shows that I've been a part of. So that's pretty cool.
That's way cool. So where do I get a Don't Go Bacon My Heart shirt?
Yeah, where do we get those?
That was like a special for a Sense of Style. They're another local Utah company that's amazing. They did like a limited run of food shirts. I got that one, and I got one that just says, "I'm here. I only came for the food."
Dang.
Oh, that's a good one.
I wanted that one. I saw it. Okay, so where can people find you?
Yes.
Anywhere there's internet. Our website, heygrillhey.com, or our store is patio-provisions.com if you want to pick up sweet rub or any of our sauces, or we've got merch and butcher paper and hats and t-shirts and all sorts of fun stuff over at Patio Provisions. And then on social media, anywhere, Hey Grill Hey.
Awesome.
Oh,
so
great.
Thanks so much, you guys, for stopping by.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to the Pitmasters podcast. Again, I'm Rusty Monson.
I'm Anthony Lujan.
And next time we'll be talking a little bit how to get into competition barbecue from the backyard and talk to a couple competition pitmasters and see if maybe you want to take the jump or not. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks again. Have a good one.